So welcome back again. Due to the high number of comments that we got from the first podcast, the first vidstream, we decided to do a second one. So the agenda for today is first an introduction from everybody present. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, almost 8 people present. So first we'll go from updates from Huawei based on our communication with them. Then we'll talk about a little trick that everybody can use. It's very easy. We can use this to protect the HTTP interface. So find a way to securely manage their Huawei FTTH router. And then we'll talk about the discoveries made by other people, such as Bilal and Yashad, and also Idris. And then we'll go to one of the things that a lot of people have asked us about is Krack attack. So what is it? What does it imply? And also Nitin is going to mention an interesting discovery that he made. So first we'll go through introduction from everybody. So we'll start with Bilal.
Bilal, you're on mute.
Bilal, you're muted. Unmute yourself. Okay, it's fine. Now. Good.
Bo?
Okay, now we can hear you. So,
okay.
Go on.
So, I present myself once again. I'm Bilal Abdel Hassan. I just graduated from the University of Mauritius. I did software engineering. So, I'm currently working at Nabla Business Solutions, which is situated at Puerto Sab. Currently junior developer, software developer, and also web and so on. So I usually blog at bilal.abdelhassan.name. So I believe most of you here knew me. So that's it from my side.
Okay. Next is Kodaren.
Hello, I am Kodaren, number 4 of hackers.mu. I work full-time at Orange Business Services. That's all.
Next is Idris.
Yes, hello everyone. So I'm Idris. I work with Kodaren and Nitin at Orange Business Services on full-time basis. And that's it.
Next is Yashad.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Yashad Abdul. I'm from Mauritius, but I'm studying right now in Turkey. I'm fourth-year student in information systems engineering. That's it. And I blog at irshad.mu.
And then our youngest people, and it's our youngest person is Kifa. So Kifa, are you still here?
Hello,
So
everyone. My name is Kifa. I'm in Saint-Esprit, studying Saint-Esprit, and doing Form 5 this year. So far, I've been a finalist for the Google coding competition, and I've done a few hackathons together with hackers.mu. That's it.
Next is Sylvain.
Hi, I'm Sylvain, also known as Pirabolan, founder of hackers.mu and lead developer in Copenhagen FinTech Lab. And I like to code passionately. That's about it. Welcome on board.
So thanks. Then next is Rahul. Speak. unmute yourself first, then you can speak.
Hello, I'm Rahul. I'm currently working at Link.net as a technician IT. I've participated in hackathon for Fire Jail. That's it.
Next is Nitin.
Hello, my name is Nitin. I'm from hackers.mu. I'm also working as a cloud specialist at Orange Business Services. You can find my blogs at tenelix.com. Thank you. Over to you.
And the last person is Yash. So please, Yash.
Hello, I'm Yash Bopia, studying computer science level 2 at the University of Mauritius and currently a member of hackers.mu. That's it.
So we got a lot of questions from our first podcast concerning what is exactly happening. People are aware that we are currently talking with Huawei. So what are the good news? The good news that we have for everybody is that Huawei is going to update the version of DNS Moscow. They've made it clear, and we've opted 2 times for confirmation that's happening. The other thing that's happening is that it's going to take time, and the tentative date that they set for the timeline of the release is 2018. So for some people, they think that it's an issue, but they're only going to release it next year, the new firmware, with the new version of DNS Moscow. So that's it. So what are your thoughts about this? And then the second thing that I would like to tell people is that they've also taken, so Kodaren discovered that the process of DNS Moscow was running as root, meaning that on the router, it was listening to internet traffic on the LAN side and then running as a root process. The problem with DNS Moscow is that when you run any process that listens on the network as root, if this process gets corrupted somehow, it's compromised, anybody can attack it. So that's an issue. So there's a way to minimize the impact of this by having DNS Moscow running as an unprivileged user. So this was there in default DNS Moscow, but they didn't turn it on. So Huawei got back to us saying, we're taking your suggestion very seriously. So we can hope that this is going into production. So let's do, who would like to speak about this update? So what do you think for our people here? So who wants to speak? So any volunteer? Seven?
Well, I personally think that a target of 2018 is way too long for a vulnerability like this. And it would have been nice if we could play around with that code or somehow find some other ways to mitigate that for the general population.
So what about the others?
I agree with Sylvan. It's a bit too far, 2018. I think it's March. I think we should just make our own firmware.
So
or propose alternate ways for the people who don't understand IT that much to secure themselves better. Don't make a new firmware. But that could do too if you guys want to make it.
So I think it's the question of whether we should make a new firmware will be debated again when we talk about Krack attack on the second part. So anybody else? I think Irshad made a plea to MT. So Irshad, anything to say?
The question states if Huawei will do the upgrade. Does Mauritius Telecom has the support package to have its routers updated? Will the customer receive the updated firmware, or how will it work?
So this particular version, of that router is actually sold. So what Huawei considers its client in this case, it's not really us. It's more like Mauritius Telecom and other big ISPs that are buying it from them. So what they do is that they provide firmware to them. I raised this issue separately, and I will talk about it maybe later on or maybe next time. So what we have to understand is that Huawei gives this firmware to what it calls this category of client as carrier clients. So Mauritius Telecom falls into the category of a carrier client, and yes, they received it, and then we'll have to probably, so the firmware that Mauritius Telecom has is customized, of course, because you must have noticed there's the logo of everything. So this is done by Huawei for its large customers. So they are getting customizations, and it's up to them then to later pick this new firmware and ship it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that seems to answer it, but I hope that it's not 2018 for the firmware upgrade, not and for Mauritius Telecom, not next century. I really hope so.
Okay. Anybody else would like to speak?
I have a question. Will the firmware be able? Will most of the population will be able to update their modem? Because the process is not that straightforward to update the firmware.
Correct.
Yes, I can reply to that question. Those routers can be controlled over by Mauritius Telecom themselves. They can do the firmware upgrade.
They can do it. I don't know that.
Yeah. In fact, they will push the patch to your modem directly, because you can't open a port on your modem and then using that port, you will push the patch on your modem.
Okay, so
the patch will concern only DNS mouse queue.
Okay, I'll answer this one. So we have a number of tickets open with them. So we're dealing with each of them. So right now, what they've confirmed is for DNS mouse queue. We'll be coming to the other things that you've discovered, which of course are as equally as important and needs to be discussed. I think that it's time for us to move to another topic now. So now concerning the topic that I'm going to show, it's a really simple trick that anybody can use, okay? You can use it. So as you're aware, when you connect via the HTTP interface, and then you put the username password, even if you change the firmware somehow to change the username password, it still flies over HTTP, right? And what's the problem with HTTP? What's the problem with HTTP?
It is secure as hell.
So plain text HTTP is it has no encryption. So that's an issue here. So if you want to manage it, but are somehow paranoid okay, somehow paranoid about how to deal with certain things. So there's a simple trick that you can use. So, okay, I'll just show you quickly. So if you go, okay, let me share my screen first. Application window. Okay. So I'll show you a simple trick here. So if you go on, can everybody see?
Yes,
Okay.
we can see your screen.
Yeah, okay. If I go on, so, okay, we'll plug in again. So if I log in here, ONT access configuration, there's something I can do. I can disable telnet, and then I can enable SSH, right? Do we all agree on here? Right?
Yes, right.
Right. So one simple way of managing this, and I've discovered this by testing actually, is that I can set a local port on my machine and then tell it to connect to a specific port on the router, in this case port 80. But the advantage of doing this is that it goes through an SSH tunnel, basically. So now you have an encrypted access to your router. So let's do a test. Okay.
Yeah, got it.
Here, 127. And here we go. Can you all see the screen?
Yes, you can see it.
So what's the difference between this one and typing going straight to HTTP?
Interface.
Yeah, this one applies the port forwarding and like it's tunneling.
Yes, exactly. So it acts like the tunneling, and the advantage of this tunnel is that it's encrypted using SSH. So here I can securely manage the HTTP interface via this tunnel. And this is way, way more secure than other methods. Okay. I have made a lot of users, myself and Darren, are correctly connecting on it. So that's just to show you a simple trick that you can use. Instead of relying on maybe doing SSL, it's really out of the box. You enable SSH, then, okay, let me show you all again. Okay, let me stop sharing. Let me show you the command that I've typed. Okay, sharing it again so that everybody can see. So as you can see, it's forwarding all the ports. So this is the command that I typed. And again, I'm going to explain it again. So -v, okay, you can omit v. Can everybody see the command that I'm typing clearly?
Yes.
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 So as you can see, I do a local port forward 1025. Then from the point of view of the router, it's 127.127, which is localhost. And then I do port 80, which is the HTTP interface. Then I type root, normal SSH access on this port. So this port is normal SSH access. Okay? But this port is what's interesting, is that I can tunnel my plain text HTTP traffic via a secure connection. So that's why I keep saying, instead of shipping telnet, what Huawei and the other manufacturers should do is just giving SSH with port forwarding enabled. That way, people can securely manage their HTTP interface. So Of course, this is going to create a debate. Okay, let me stop sharing. Okay, so okay, let's take comments from everybody. So who wants to talk?
Seriously, nobody wants to talk.
I think we have now Bilal who wants to say something, right? About his discoveries and all, as per the agenda.
I want to move to the next topic. Okay. So, okay, that's a really simple trick. Sorry, just for the viewers that are with us, that's a simple trick that you can use. And it doesn't require you to go through SSL and then forcing it. So SSH tunneling is just one line on Linux. But I agree with the comment that Yeshad made that it's only for certain group of people, like people who are managing. And people talked about updating and everything. So for example, on Android, they have auto-update system for firmware, some of them. But it's true that when it comes to routers and modems, there's an issue. I agree. And I think the manufacturers should make it so that modems should become auto-update to a certain extent, so that the layman could get an updated firmware very easily. So we're good. We're shifting to the next topic. Everybody? Okay.
Yeah.
So when we'll hand the mic to, who wants to? Bilal?
Question.
Okay.
Well, if you think this settings is too complicated for the layman, why not have like an open router around, and then each one of you are decent developers, you can hack on it and make a small utility that you could share around to people to fix that issue.
Yes, that's an excellent suggestion. So yes, you could do that very easily. In fact, you could just take an open source SSH client. It would just double click, and then you just indicate, for example, I want to access this port on the router. And then it would just connect, and then you get the secure channel. Yeah. That's a good suggestion. So what are the others? Okay, so I guess we moved on to the next item, which was the discoveries made by Yeshad. So let me just share my screen for people who do not know what Yeshad has been doing. Yeshad. Okay, so Yeshad wrote first an open letter to Mauritius Telecom. Then later, okay, let's go back. So Yeshad's point, if I get it correctly, was that there were many issues, and then he wanted also to disable Telnet by default. And that's a debate actually, what to do with Telnet, whether to update it, keep it on, or just disable it. So Yeshad.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. But you said what to do with Telnet. Who will use the Telnet if it stays open? Nobody should, I think, should be using it. That's the point. And for security, for most of the users, that's why I'm saying that MT should thing. That's the thing. That's the first barrier. Not it is as open as a barrier as it is now right now. That's why I'm saying. One.
You are saying, Run?
I was saying that telnet should really be made illegal. I don't understand why anyone would use telnet in this century. There's no reason at all.
Okay. Then Idris? Idris?
I think the point is telnet server and telnet client. You could use a telnet client to just check an open port, but that's it.
So, okay.
Why should we use telnet when we can use SSH?
Oh, well, I'm not sure if you can use SSH to check if a port is open.
Yeah, you're right. No, sorry.
Let's say Nmap.
Okay, so Idris, you have something to say? I think Idris is still eating. Okay. Rahul, you wanted to say something?
Point.
Okay, I think Bilal has some issues right now. Okay. So, yes, Idris, what do you think?
No, it should be disabled because what I was able to do when I got the access on while testing on a friend's router, I think it should be disabled, definitely.
Okay. Good. So I think that it should be disabled and SSH enabled. I would highly recommend that people use SSH and encourage all routers to have SSH enabled because it has port forwarding, because it allows you to securely manage via command line if you need to. That's it.
I think that I'm not sure, but as long as it is one side, is it? I don't know. Is it okay or what do you think? If telnet is disabled on the one side, but still kept enabled on the LAN side.
Okay, in this case, it would depend. For example, if you're at a Wi-Fi hotspot and you have to manage a router which has telnet, I wouldn't recommend using telnet because you have untrusted client. You don't know if they're monitoring the traffic or not. And if they are and they are connected, that's an issue. So, but if you're in trusted network where you're sure that nobody's, you know everybody and nobody's ever going to do that, then that's a risk that you could take.
But sadly, trusted network is a myth.
Well, when I'm saying that we are disabling the telnet, it can also be enabled. I'm not saying to bar it completely. I'm saying just as we are doing manually to just untick the box, just release a firmware patch that all the boxes for all the clients on Mauritius Telecom are disabled. Then if we want it, we can just enable it. That's it.
Okay. So Bilal, so you dropped from the call and now it's your turn to speak.
Okay. I think I just missed it all because of that shitty
So there was a
internet
discussion
connection.
with, for example, Yashad said that telnet should be disabled. So what do you think?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then now let's go to your, Bilal, the huge work that you did. Okay, I'll share it with everybody. So Bilal has been working, okay, has been working very hard.
Bilal is a madman.
And point sick on that day.
So on Bilal's blog, he speaks about, so he went and compiled all the list of the vulnerabilities for example, the DNS. And then he spoke about telnet and the default username password. And then we already talked about, so he enables SSH, which I think is good. Then he looks for PS, discovers that again DNS Moscow is running as root. And then let's go to his next blog post, which is a more comprehensive list. So he looks at all the list of a firmware. So for example, BFTPD, a small FTP server. So what he found out that it has a vulnerability, so two actually. And it's really old, the router version is old, and the latest release is 4.6. Then he moves on to BusyBox. So the router version is 1.18, and the latest version is 1.27. And then CUPS, again, same thing, DNS Moscow already covered. Then one which was interesting was Polar SSL, which is basically the TLS that you can use on the router. And he found many issues in it. And the router ships a really old version of Polar SSL. Now it has been renamed to Embed at TLS 2.6. So, and then the list goes on and on and on about a list of really outdated software that are known to have issues. And the biggest one is Samba, where Hugh writes, oh, stop, it's too long, damn. So we are realizing that apart from DNS Moscow, there's a lot of old software running here. Even the zlib is old and it has known vulnerabilities. And zlib is like everywhere. There's very few products that are not using it. So, okay, let me stop sharing the screen now and let's go back to the debate. So who wants to talk? So Bilal, you go first. What do you think about everything?
Well, I just think that Mauritius Telecom went for the cheapest routers they could get from the market. So they didn't just care about the outdated versions and so on. They just went with the cheapest ones. Actually, when I saw your post that you guys saw the DNS Moscow being outdated, so I was like, okay, I was sick that day and didn't go to work, so I said like, okay, let me see if I can see if there's another updated software. So the first one I looked at was BFTP, as you can see, and I was quite shocked.
So just before you proceed, so some people couldn't see his blog post, right? So we want me to share it again, right? Correct?
Oh, actually, it was Bilal's mic was not muted, so it was taking over on the presentation. That's it.
Ah, okay, that's
it's okay. It's okay. No issue.
Let me share it again. Okay, just let me share it again for people who are with us right now. So let me just go back. Let's go back. So people, so as I was saying, Bilal did a huge compilation of these utilities, what version it is, and what's the latest version. BusyBox, all the list of vulnerabilities, and what's the current version. And the list goes on, and then it's really using an old version known as Polar SSL, sorry. As you see, 0.1, and then 2.6. So as you can see, Samba, the list is way too long, as you can see here. And it's used for some kind of file sharing on the router. So all of those, stop sharing my screen, are vulnerabilities. And as I said,
to add something.
Yes, go on.
Yeah, it seems that there are lots of exploits right now for all these vulnerabilities. And I think, guys, we need to be very careful about the types of change to us to make it.
I think, Nitin, can you say it again? Because I think there was a small issue.
What I'm saying is that there are lots of exploits for all these vulnerabilities in the wild right now. And we need to be very careful about the types of packets and getting into our network. And I think that's very important. So don't hesitate to put into place an IDS or IPS that's it.
Okay, so Bilal, please continue what you were saying.
So yes, so I decided to go with each and every of them. I was surprised to see how outdated they were, and so I decided to compile them all. I was like, okay, I just wanted to compare the versions of the existing on the routers and the latest ones. So I did a simple Google search on the outdated versions on our routers to see whether there are some vulnerabilities. A simple Google search did the trick. I was able to see the list for all of them, so I decided to compile them. Well, the list is long. I won't go over all of it again, but what I can say that most of those vulnerabilities were concerning buffer overflow and disk attacks.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. What's scary is that this is used in many houses right now in what we call critical internet infrastructure. And that raises a lot of issues for Mauritius as a whole, as an island, because we need to have solid infrastructure. And increasingly, our economy is relying on the internet, meaning that if somehow, for example, in the worst case of a country deciding to attack Mauritius, that would put us in a, let's say, difficult situation. So what are your thoughts, others? Who wants to speak?
I just have one question.
Yes.
I was talking about that with Yashad. If they release a firmware upgrade for all of those softwares, is it possible that the hardware, it's like maybe too cheap stuff to take the burden of all those upgrades, or will it surface like upgrading all those on our current hardware routers that we have, or will they have to ship another new routers to fix them?
Okay, I'll answer that. So those routers have a lot of flash memory. So they have 128 megabytes, which is a lot. For example, other routers that you buy in Mauritius typically have 16 megabytes of flash. So it has 128. So there's enough space, both in terms of RAM and also in terms of disk. It doesn't have a hard disk. It has something called an industrial flash chip. And in this case, it's quite big. It's 128 meg. So it can accommodate new updates. And
okay, great.
What I would think should be done when the local ISPs, either it's Mauritius Telecom, MTEL, or anybody else, they should have it as a requirement for any manufacturer who wants to do business with them. If you want to do business with me, I expect that you're going to give me 2 years of support for any vulnerability that we encounter. That way, there's a contractual agreement. That way, if the party is not respecting this agreement, then they have to either pay penalties or find some way to compensate the client. And as I said, those big companies like Mauritius Telecom and Intel are in a very good position to ask for updates, but it's better that when there's a contract, it's clearly written, similar to an SLA. So, any other question or comment? So if there's no question, so I guess we'll move to our next.
I have a point rather.
Okay.
Okay. No,
Go on, Bilal.
No, it's your shot. So this job that we did to look for the vulnerabilities, shouldn't it have been done by empty guys before buying the routers? And also, what if we have issues among the softwares when we're upgrading? Will all of them support each other, and also the operating system also? If there's some issues like that, what are the solutions? Thanks.
Who wants to answer this?
If you want, well, the operating system doesn't really matter when it comes to the router, but there's one concern that by laying out all the vulnerabilities, as Irshad mentioned, that it could be said that we made exploiting these vulnerabilities easier. But the thing is, those vulnerabilities were already published way before that. So it's actually Telecom's own fault that they haven't done their due diligence regarding these devices that they are shipping to customers. And at the end of the day, it should be their own responsibility to repair that. But because the way security itself affects everyone around us, we can't just wait for the ISP to actually do the securing job. You understand me? As if you wait for them, you risk that identities that you used to know, for example, or you used to trust online, may have already been compromised. Which is why we can't really wait for an ISP to do any change on that.
My question stays: are Mauritian users aware, and do they really care? Because when you say you ask people to get secure password, they say, I don't have anything to hide, etc. They don't just care about the privacy. That's why I mentioned, and several times I've repeated about the thing that people can steal your VoIP credentials and make calls and on your bill. Okay, this is how Mauritian people will understand when they know that their money is going. This is how they will think. But I don't see people in Mauritius that conscious about this type of security. This is my personal opinion. Thanks.
I would think that personally, I would tend to agree with what Bruce Schneier said about this. So what he's lobbying for right now is Bruce Schneier is lobbying for stronger legislation within the US. So that he says that basically the problem is that the customers at large are not educated, so they make bad purchasing decisions. And the problem is that he says that the only thing that can change this is regulation of even a free market to prevent, so that in some way to force the manufacturers to give support. For example, if you take the Android phone from Google, they give you support for 2 years. Okay, so a model like this would work for routers. So the idea would be to apply the same model to routers, so that once there's regulation in place, the manufacturers have to abide. So I think we are already 40 minutes. So I think
I'm not seeing that coming.
Can I add something to that?
Okay, sure. Let's Yashad speak first.
Okay,
Go on.
yeah.
I'm not seeing that coming soon, that type of legislation in Mauritius. Nor will any type of update or customer awareness. I'm not seeing that coming that soon. As I said last time, maybe next century.
Okay.
Yeah, the thing is, even if people don't care, the actual consequences are very real. For example, if you actually own a hardline and you have a router connected to it, that router is vulnerable. Someone uses your router to do any illegal stuff, you will be liable. And whether you want it or not, you can end up in jail. We have seen that in the past, where there was a guy whose cyber cafe got hacked or something like that due to bad security, and he really ended up in jail for a short while. So it's somehow very important, even if some don't want it. Right? And that's how we need to somewhat ensure
Yeah,
it's
that's
still so.
interesting what Pirabalan is saying.
Because the law will not look for who actually got into your box and did some shady stuff from your box. The attack came from your machine, so you are responsible to secure your machine, your internet, your network.
Okay, so I think it's time for us to move now to the big part, which is Krack attack. Okay, with everybody?
Yes.
So for those people who have questions, to
for the back door.
Yeah, sorry. So before we go on, we Nitin has something to share. So please, Nitin, please share your discovery.
So what I just want to share is that, let me share my screen first. This of the decrypting the configuration file. It's kind of decrypting the configuration file. So hear me right now.
Nitin, I think there are issues right now with your connection.
Sorry, yes, Hangout hanging from time to time.
Buffer bloat.
You're in the attack. Did you change your password?
So let me share my screen. I see my screen right now.
Yes, we can.
After decrypting the configuration file, I noticed that we have a specific line, a specific code on it, which mention, like you can see on my screen, X monitor collector enable 0, which means that this is disabled. But what is disabled is the TFTP port 9, which resolve on a specific URL, that is e.com. My screen. So why is there a TFTP port listening on 6169 on the router, and it's disabled? So will there be any kind of vulnerabilities that is going to be used to enable this? The question remains a question. We still don't know why we need to have this TFTP port listening on it. I made a Huawei and is that
Nitin, you need to speak again. People didn't quite listen. Didn't quite get what you said. Stop sharing your screen and then switch to live.
So that's it. What I want to say is that it's disabled. That's true, but why do we have a TFTP port on it?
So okay, who wants to talk? Who wants to go? Yashad, you want to talk?
Isn't it the port that is used to upload firmwares, etc.? As I'm seeing on Google, that is the port that they use to upgrade firmwares, etc. Maybe that's what they will be using. They will enable it, push the firmware, and then disable it. Maybe.
I believe so too.
Okay, who else? So Kifa?
So
Kifa, you want to say something?
Yeah, so if they're pushing the firmware, so why is it going to China? Why China? Mauritius Telecom is the one supposed to supply the firmware upgrades and so on. So why China?
And I think it should be it should be it should have a better URL, like, I don't know, FTP that firmware updates that not something like I don't know, YF whatever it was.
this is actually
this could be used as a backdoor.
absolutely weird. Why do you have this?
So go on, Nitin.
Oh, so that's it. That,
Actually, both sides are right.
I understand that the FTP uploads the firmware. I believe that anyone now who has decrypted the configuration file would want to delete those lines. Want to do it? Feel free. So over to you.
So go on, Yashad.
Exploiting, there's probably an exploit for the TFTPD server running on that router.
Yes, go ahead, Yashad. You want to?
Can we just play around with those routers? Are we not trying to put ourselves in troubles due to the contract that we have when buying those ADSL packages or MIDI packages? We should be really careful about that.
So then?
Yes, I got here the last part.
And he says we need to be careful about the package that we are getting from Mighty, because we have to make sure that he fixed that excessive level of playing around with the configuration might be an issue.
Well, that can be an issue, but it's also a huge issue if I am being given a device so as I can communicate outside, but at the same time, the device allows other people to hijack my communication or spy through my communication. I believe there's matters of concern for the citizen also.
Yeah, but do we have the right? Who owns the device at the first place?
Telecom actually owns the device, but as a user that rents the device, I can't expose my security to it. There are alternate ways that you can bypass this. You can get your own device, but unless Telecom states that you don't have the right to do it, then I don't see anything wrong about doing it. Or informing people. Right now, what we are doing, we are informing that there's an issue, right?
I personally think that we are doing the job of Mauritius Telecom. They should have been the one pointing out that there's an issue and they are working on it.
But they are so smart that they haven't found the issue yet. And it's been like 1.8 years, I think, for one issue that has been present. And the population still haven't known about this. And they are using that. This not only puts the state at risk, because imagine there's if 1.2 million people roughly in Mauritius, assuming that there's 500,000 internet users, that's 500 zombie nodes that can be used in an attack. So is Telecom actually helping in creating zombie attacks to DDoS other countries? Or is it trying to be an ISP to provide internet services to people? We don't know that. We are only just informing people that there are vulnerabilities. You need to be careful about these.
Okay.
Now, if you want to modify it, it's up to you. It's your risk. We'll teach you that, but we don't tell you you need to do that.
Okay, so I'll just make a brief comment. There's currently legislation which is being debated right now in the US concerning the ability to hack back, meaning that it would be legal for a country to, at least in the US or a state, to counterattack in case of attack. So for example, in the case of, let's say, the router is being compromised in Mauritius and unknowingly being used to attack other countries that maybe one day pass this legislation of hackback, meaning that unknowingly Mauritius could find itself in a situation where, for example, the United States is counterattacking what it sees as a threat to it. So I see valid comments in it. And with what Seven has said. So do we continue the debate or do we move on to Krack attack? That's my next question.
Yes, let's move on, I think.
So I'll just move on to Krack attack. So everybody has heard of Krack attack. I've seen a lot of people writing about it in the news. So let's be clear. In order for someone to take advantage of this, he has to be within a certain distance from the access point and the clients connecting. Do we all agree on this? Correct.
Yes, you have to be around, yeah.
Yep.
At least radio coverage. So close by. If I understood it clearly, it was man in the middle. So.
Yep. Correct. Yep.
Close by.
Okay. Bilal. Bilal. Okay. Kifa.
Yeah, sorry. Can you
okay.
Can you say it again?
Concerning Krack attack, so it's an attack that takes place when an attacker is within a physical distance of a Wi-Fi network. Bilal. Okay, I think he muted himself. That's fine. Kifa, do you have anything to say?
Well, I'm not very technical about the Krack attack, so I don't really know how it works exactly, so I don't think I can comment on this.
Okay. So who wants to talk about Krack attack?
I will link a short video to explain Krack attack. So for Kifa and the other guys, so you guys can check the link of the video.
Okay. So coming back, so the idea is that someone is within a certain distance, and due to the protocol weakness there's a design flaw in Krack attack that basically would allow someone to capture a packet and then somehow remove part of the encryption used, basically, meaning that the packets are now clear text. So when this happens, essentially it's like someone listening to all your traffic. So there were a lot of people saying that, you know, you need to have an additional layer on top of WPA, you need to have HTTPS, which are all valid. Okay, do we all agree that it's all of those second layer security measures good? Because if there's an issue with WPA and WPA2. Yes, Nitin. Yes, go on, Nitin.
Yes, so I made some research on it. So if any one of you wants to check if they are vulnerable to Krack attack, you can go on the GitHub account of hackers.mu and Krack attacks -8. You will find on our GitHub account we have a Python script which has been forked from the official one, from one who did that script, so that you can normally you should disconnect your machine from the access and test out the script, and you will find that if you're vulnerable or not. So that's it, and it's quite very interesting if you want to test it out. It's a Python script.
Okay, thank you very much for your work. So what I'm going to say next is that I've seen a lot of people saying, you know, those are the patches that are in WPA supplicant, which is the software that's used inside all of those routers. And I think that there are issues with, in terms of not completely fixing it. So the problem is, it's not only in the software itself. So it's not only the user-led software, the WPA supplicant software, or the host APD software, but the issue is. So it's also in the Linux kernel stack within a certain layer. And a lot of people miss that. By missing that, I mean, okay, I'll just share my screen. So can you all see? Okay, so if you can see properly, you should be seeing right now, so that's a commit being made by a guy from Intel. And
I thought the commit was from you.
No, it's not from me. It's not from me. It's from Intel. So there's a commit being made out to the Linux Wi-Fi stack, where it says CV 2017 1303. It says in certain cases, having validation within W supplicant is not enough. So you need to do some changes in the key management within the Linux Wi-Fi stack. And I've seen a lot of people missing this critical piece of information, meaning that if there are vendors out there that are shipping Linux patches without this, they're missing one important mitigation. Because this one is not in a WPA supplicant software, it's not on host APD, it's within the kernel itself, but this change needs to happen. And what's more complicated is that if you offload the Wi-Fi stack to some particular chipset, you're going to have to wait for the hope and wait for the, sorry, let's go back. Hope and wait for the company to actually update its firmware so that it's taken, there's this additional validation which is being done. So I've seen a lot of people, even outside Mauritius, talking about this, but missing this important mitigation. So who wants to talk now?
So, this means that the kernel need to be patched as well.
Correct. Bilal. Bilal?
So I noticed that on many mailing lists, they miss that very interesting point, that is to patch the kernel. Instead, some people thinking on need to patch the WPA supplicant package. But in
Yes.
fact, they miss the most interesting stuff.
Yes. Darren, you wanted to say something?
I think I before the this podcast, I just checked a quick video on Krack attack. I didn't really follow the news. So what I understood from the video was that it was affecting the Wi-Fi adapters. So you just need to update firmware or drivers, that kind of stuff. But I didn't see that thing you talked about, the kernel.
Okay. So again, coming back to what I was saying is that there are still validations that need to be done, because with the kernel, there's a whole layer doing Wi-Fi there. So if really guys from Intel want to edit it and made a patch, what's important is that the smartphones that are coming out, they also have this patch. So it's not just updating, oh, okay, we're just going to ship a new version of WPA supplicant, and then it's going to be fine. The kernel needs to be patched as well. So
Okay, just to add some logging on the GitHub script, on the GitHub account, the script, if you go on issues, you will find a video how to use that script. So it has been created by the guys who has created the script himself. He made a video to show how to use that script to check whether you're vulnerable or not. That's it.
Yeah, that's, I think, good, because now increasingly you see, for example, even in Mauritius, they're talking about it. They did a very good coverage on Krack attack, and I would like to publicly thank them for covering this. And they did, I think, a good article to make people aware of it, and a lot of people are talking about it. I'm aware of it, and the question is, what do we do now? So now that we know that, those issues that all our internet connection are depending on is so weak. And again, this goes back to the debate about all software running on those routers. So we have around 6 or 7 minutes left. So who wants to speak?
I think that the best solution against Krack attack and the bad routers from Mauritius Telecom would be to just disconnect yourself from the internet.
So anybody else? Bilal, you've been silent.
Well, yeah, sorry, I was getting the connection problem. Somewhere people, I'm going to agree with Ryan that we should disconnect from the internet. That's the Krack attack. I don't have.
Okay. So Raul, you want to speak? So I think Raul as well. Kifa, anything to say as an internet user?
No, nothing to add, but I'd just like to say one thing. I think that things like Bilal's blog post are important, because if we don't bring these vulnerabilities to the light, to the public, I don't think anybody's going to patch them. So when we do this, maybe some script kiddies are going to try and probably miserably fail to do anything with it. But the real people, the real black hat hackers, they're going to be there. They know these old vulnerabilities have been published a long time ago. They're going to be exploiting it. So I think it's good that we put it to the light so that MT has some pressure to fix them. And that's it.
It is.
Yes.
What?
If I have something to say about it.
So please speak, Idris. That's it you have to say.
You hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Yes, I followed what you said, and I tested some of what you said earlier, and don't know what to say really. I think it's only people who really know what we are doing will like us. People like us will, but thanks God, not all people are like us, and thus we need to be very careful. We need to get disconnected from internet.
So, Yashad, you have anything to say? Any comment?
Not really saying about the Krack, but for Bilal's, again, Bilal's blog post is maybe somehow dangerous to us, to all the people around them. As I said, that a simple script with as an input with IP block targeting measures is possible, but it's also some kind of pressure on MD. But really, I don't think that would make some kind of difference on MD, and I'm not expecting anything big, even from my letter or anything that we just talk. And
okay,
that's it.
So my personal comment before we close is that now that people are aware of it, even thanks to Defi who is publishing it, I think somehow someone has to take a decision about it, and maybe even considering pushing for legislation. That's my personal view. Not everybody agrees with this, and also I think that it's so easy today using a network scanner to get the kind of information about those vulnerabilities. That security by obscurity, meaning that trying to hide the service somehow doesn't really fix the problem, because people are going to find ways to go about it and discover it. Because if you, for example, I've set up some services in my house, and I see every day IPs from different parts of the world trying to hack into it every day. I mean, trying to crack into the service running, and I see it every day. So people have to realize that the internet now is very hostile. It's a very hostile place, and we have to take the internet in our hands and make it the way we want it to be. That is, if we want to really make it secure, we have to look at it from a technical point of view, from a political point of view, and also from an economical point of view. Because if, for example, you have an enterprise that has its network here, and someone who left the company, he just walks around, connects, he knows the password, there has been no password rotation, and he can do quite a lot of damage. And for example, you have companies here that are making a lot of money. So something like this wouldn't be right. So even if they change the password through the WPA, someone will still be able to at least recover part of the traffic. So that's my personal take. So with this, if anybody doesn't have anything to say, I'm going to close. But before I close, I would like to thank everybody who took the time on a Friday night to come here. So thanks to Bilal, Kodaren, Idris, Yashad, Kifa, Sylvain, Raoul, and of course Nitin. So and thanks for the people who are currently watching it. Then, if you have any questions, please put it on YouTube, and I'll try to get back to you. So I think we're all going to sleep now. Again, it was a pleasure doing this, even if we extended it longer. So, right.
I hope there will be next time. Goodbye.
It was a great talk. Thanks.
And we thanks all our fans and every people who are watching us. So keep in touch with hackers.mu.
Okay.
Everyone, and good night. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you a lot, Yashad.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.